Feeling that chill on these cold nights, like winter's on its way? You got it. Tonight, we're diving into the White Walkers, the Long Night, and the legends who fought them. From Westeros to mystical Essos. This epic tale gets different names. Woven into prophecies as ancient as the lands. We'll also explore the early history too. Get the full story, chat about the Night's Watch, the Starks of Winterfell, and some intriguing mysteries the maesters still ponder. Then, we'll wrap up with some readings from my favorite parts. Want to help out the channel? Check out my Patreon. But for now, let's get cozy, grab a warm drink, and jump into the adventure. Before we can discuss the Long Night, the Others, or the wall that protects humanity, we need to go way back to a time when the world was new, wild, and full of magic. This was the Age of Heroes, and it's where many Westerosi legends began. It all started with the arrival of the first men. Thousands of years ago, give or take 10,000 to 12,000. They crossed from Essos to Westeros via a land bridge called the Arm of Dawn. These weren't your average settlers. They were tough, stubborn, and brought bronze weapons, horses, and a fierce claim to everything they saw. But Westeros wasn't uninhabited when the first men arrived. The land was already home to the children of the forest, a mysterious folk who'd lived there for millennia, before any humans set foot on the continent. In A Clash of Kings, Maester Luwin describes them: a people of the dawn, small but brave, with eyes like dark pools and hair like autumn leaves. The children of the forest didn't build cities. They lived in harmony with nature, dwelling in forests, caves, and hidden villages as tribes. They used obsidian, or dragonglass, for their tools. And they carved faces into weirwood trees, believing these trees linked them to their gods. Based on that, you might think they were gentle and simple. But that couldn't be further from the truth. They were actually incredibly powerful. They wielded magic. They could commune with animals, see the future through greenseers, and tap into something ancient and profound in the world. So when the first men started felling their sacred weirwoods and reshaping the land, the children fought back fiercely. They used magic, obsidian, and their knowledge of the terrain, while the first men relied on sheer grit and force. After centuries of conflict, both sides realized the war was pointless. So they forged a pact. It happened on the Isle of Faces, in the center of God's Eye Lake. The first men agreed to stop destroying weirwoods, and to protect the forests. The children, in turn, allowed humans to keep the lands they had already settled, marking the dawn of a new era. The first men adopted the children's beliefs, honoring the old gods and embracing the weirwood trees as their sacred symbols. Even today, families like the Starks of Winterfell uphold these ancient traditions. Many heroes emerged during this time, like Bran the Builder, and the founders of the noble houses we know today established their dynasties and kingdoms across Westeros then. For a time, things were peaceful. The first men and the children lived in harmony. The old gods were revered, and humanity built lasting forts and traditions for ages to come. But in the far, frozen north, a change was brewing. As old Nan recounts in A Game of Thrones, a shadow fell upon the world. Men froze, women cried, and children wailed. And the others rode on pale steeds, And the dead rose to follow them. This marked the era known as the Long Night. One of the most ancient legends in A Song of Ice and Fire. It's tough to separate history from myth, especially with differing regional tales, which we'll explore. But one thing is universally agreed upon. It was the bleakest period humanity ever faced. From Westeros's icy north to Essos's shadowy cities, people still share stories of that endless winter, lasting a generation. Long enough for children to grow old and die without seeing the sun. The others, or White Walkers, were tall, pale beings from the land of always winter, far north of Westeros. Old Nan described them as cold, dead, but George R.R. Martin says they're not dead. They're a distinct form of life, meant to be alien and beautiful. Inhumanly graceful, yet terrifying. Their movement is unnatural, gliding over snow without tracks. Wherever they appeared, intense cold followed, and eerie mists swirled. Some tales claim the cold comes with them, others that they only arrive during an already frozen world. There's no single answer. Just like many topics the maesters debate. The others wielded weapons unlike any in Westeros. Their swords were slender, icy, and razor-sharp, capable of cleaving through metal armor with ease. The clash of their blades on steel produced a piercing shriek, like a wounded creature's cry. Fire reacted strangely too, emitting a screech upon contact. According to George R.R. Martin, their swords are made of ice. But not our common ice. They possess abilities beyond human comprehension. Beyond their weapons, the others could reanimate the dead. Corpses brought back by their magic became known as wights. Empty husks forced to do their will. Burning the dead was the only sure way to stop a corpse from coming back. Wights weren't just people. They could reanimate creatures like horses, bears, dire wolves, and mammoths. Some tales say the others rode giant ice spiders. The wildlings thought the others could sense body heat. And they hated anything with warm blood. In some grim stories, wildlings grabbed women from the south and gave them to the others to birth half-human kids during the long night. Later, some grew desperate and started worshipping the others. A cruel wildling named Craster left his sons out for the others, hoping for protection from them and their wights. But the Red Priestess Melisandre believes the White Walkers are the cold children of the Great Other. An evil god of darkness battling Lawler, the Lord of Light. Knowing all this about them, it's no wonder the White Walkers could so easily terrify the first men of the North. They seemed completely unstoppable. At least until the last hero appeared. His name is lost to history, but legends say he sought the children of the forest for their ancient magic and weapons. He traveled with companions, a horse, and a dog. But the cold and the others took them all. His sword froze and broke one by one. His horse died, and he was left alone. Giant ice spiders and other icy monsters chased him through the snow. But against all odds, he found the children of the forest and convinced them to join the fight. With their dragonglass and old knowledge, humans finally had the means to fight back. The final clash against the others became known as the Battle for the Dawn. The remaining first men and children of the forest pushed the others back. And they retreated to the far north, to the lands of always winter. The humans knew this wasn't a total win, just a delay of the threat. Not its end. So, in the aftermath, the survivors built the wall. Tyrion Lannister says the wall is 100 leagues long and 700 feet high. They call it a marvel. A wonder of the world. But the true wonder is what lies beyond it. It's a solid, physical barrier against the other's return. But the children of the forest also used magic to reinforce it. So it's more than just ice, stone, and earth. To guard this structure, the Night's Watch was formed. An ancient brotherhood sworn to stand guard on the wall and protect the realms of men from the dangers beyond. But all of this is Westerosi. Legend and history. This version of the Long Night and the Last Hero comes from the north. Across the sea, in Essos. There's a similar but different account of events, tied to its own myths and heroes. Let's discuss the ancient empire of Et. Across the narrow sea, past the Shadowlands and the Bones Mountains, lay a vast golden empire. Culturally, it's similar to fantasy imperial China. With huge palaces, dragon symbols, and millennia of rich history. At its peak, the empire was ruled by god-emperors who claimed divine ancestry, and its wealth and power were unrivaled. By the time of A Song of Ice and Fire, the empire is still significant, but it's a mere shadow of its former glory. Its golden age had long passed, and its history is mostly myth and faint memories. E.T. recalls the long night as a time when the sky darkened for decades, and the sun vanished behind thick clouds of ash and smoke. Demons and monsters roamed the earth. During this period, E.T.'s version also features a hero. Though there's little information on this one. The only hint about this specific version comes from a legend stating that disaster during the long night was averted by the actions of a woman with a monkey's tail. But what makes E.T.'s long night unique is its link to an earlier event. The fall of the great empire of the dawn. The emperors of that era were supposedly descended from the Lion of Night and the Maiden of Light. These deities symbolized night and day, shadow and light, and their offspring ruled the world in an era of peace and prosperity. But with each succeeding ruler, their reign grew shorter and more troubled. And humanity became more greedy and corrupt over generations. The final ruler of this empire was the Amethyst Empress, who was unjustly overthrown by her younger brother, the Bloodstone Emperor. He's described as a cruel and tyrannical leader, who practiced dark magic and necromancy, among other forbidden arts. He rejected the true gods and worshipped a black stone that fell from the sky. Consequently, the Bloodstone Emperor's actions angered the gods, and as punishment, the long night fell upon the world. This interpretation raises an interesting question. Was the long night a consequence of human actions? Or was it simply a cosmic catastrophe? But before we get too deep, there's one more version worth mentioning. There's a city called Ashai, located at the world's edge, deep in the Shadowlands. The city is constructed from black stone, perhaps the same kind of black stone the Bloodstone Emperor revered. Despite being a massive city, Ashai is nearly deserted. There are no children, animals, or decent people. Even the ash river flowing through the city emits a black, toxic glow. The city is a hub for sorcerers, shadowbinders, and red priests, where they can freely practice dark magic and perform sinister rituals. Many secrets of the world's ancient history, including dragons, are rumored to be hidden in its libraries. The people of Ashai have their own account of the long night. It revolves around Azor Ahai, who, surprisingly, is another legendary hero who fought against the darkness after a profound sacrifice. Legend has it, he needed to forge a powerful sword, Lightbringer, to defeat the darkness. He attempted to craft it 3 times. On the first attempt, he tempered the blade in water, but it broke. On the second attempt, he tempered it by plunging it into the heart of a lion, but it shattered again. On the third try, after working on it for 100 days and nights, it was time to finish the sword. So he summoned his beloved wife, Nissa, and asked her to be the final sacrifice. She agreed, and Azor Ahai drove the sword into her chest. He called his wife, Nissa, for one last, huge favor. She said yes. Azor Ahai then plunged the sword right in. Her essence, her existence, and her devotion were poured into steel. The sword then erupted in light. This final act forged Lightbringer, the weapon to push back darkness. In A Clash of Kings, Melisandre proclaims, "A day will dawn after endless summer when stars weep fire. And the world will be gripped by winter's dark embrace. In that dire hour, a warrior will draw a blazing sword from flames. That sword will be Lightbringer. She's a follower of R'hllor, the Lord of Light. He believes Azor Ahai will return, reborn as the prophesied prince, to face the darkness once more." Melisandre first thought Stannis Baratheon was the reborn Azor Ahai. Later, her focus shifted to Jon Snow. But now, we have much more information than before. Considering the new details from House of the Dragon and George R.R. Martin's own words, it's increasingly plausible Daenerys Targaryen also fits the prophecy. Just a personal thought. I've always felt she was the promised prince or princess. So I really hope this plays out, if we ever get the Winds of Winter. That being said, the prophecy's vagueness is deliberate. George R.R. Martin often states that prophecies in his world are meant to be unreliable, open to interpretation, and often misleading. So, whether Azor Ahai, the last hero, and the E.T. hero are the same person, or if there were truly 3 separate long nights across continents, remains unclear. Let's return to the North and Westeros to discuss the Night's Watch. As we covered, the Night's Watch was established to defend the Wall from White Walkers. It was once a highly respected order, with noble houses sending younger sons. They saw it as a glorious duty. But as the others' threat diminished, the Watch's purpose and member quality changed. For most of recorded history, the Watch primarily dealt with wildlings north of the Wall. Though not inherently evil, wildlings were seen as lawless, raiding savages threatening settled lands. Those joining the Night's Watch took lifelong vows of sacrifice, discipline, and duty. They gave up all ambition, family ties, and any hope of a normal life. There are 3 main roles within the Watch. Rangers are the scouts and primary combatants. They are the ones who go beyond the Wall to patrol and confront threats. Builders maintain the Wall's structure and the forts along it. Then there are the stewards, Jon Snow's initial role. They manage the daily operations of the Night's Watch. Basically, the administrative side. They cook, handle supplies, and care for the ravens that carry messages. The Night's Watch is led by the Lord Commander, elected by its members, who oversees alliances and the Watch's limited resources. The organization initially had 19 castles along the Wall, with Castle Black at the center as the main base. Maintaining and defending all of this required significant manpower. But over millennia, as the White Walker threat faded, this became unsustainable. Fewer nobles sent their sons. Instead, exiles, criminals, and outcasts formed the majority of the watch. Only 3 castles remained actively manned out of the 19. Most people stopped believing in the White Walkers, dismissing them as folklore or superstition, or just scary stories for children. Before we leave the Night's Watch, there's a fascinating tale I want to share. Legend tells of an unknown man who served as the 13th Lord Commander. He's known only as the Night's King. But don't confuse him with the show's Night King. He doesn't actually exist in the books, which is why I didn't mention him. Anyway, the Night's King lived during the Age of Heroes, not long after the wall was built. While serving the watch, he fell for a woman he saw from the wall's highest point. She had pale, icy skin, and eyes like brilliant blue stars. The Night's King pursued and found her. When he gave her his love, he surrendered his soul. He brought her to a castle, one of the forts along the wall. He declared her his queen and became a king through dark magic. He somehow bent the brothers of the Watch to his will, and ruled for 13 years with his so-called corpse queen. During this time, he committed horrific acts, like sacrificing children to the others. Among other atrocities erased from history, the king in the north, Brandon the Breaker, allied with the king beyond the wall to defeat the Night's King. His name was removed and forbidden. But when old Nan told this story to Bran Stark, she always said he was a Stark. Again, though, this story is purely legend. But I thought it was interesting enough to share. And honestly, a bit chilling. Speaking of chilling, since we're on the topic of the Night Fort, there's an ancient gate there called the Black Gate. In the Night Fort's kitchens, you'll find a well reaching deep underground. A weirwood tree has grown through the floor. Descend the well's spiral stairs, and you'll reach the bottom. Weirwoods, if you recall, are trees the children of the forest carved faces into. The Black Gate itself is made of glowing white weirwood. Its surface features an old, withered face with deep lines and blind eyes that seem to have never seen. When someone approaches the gate, the eyes open, and the face speaks, demanding an identification. It doesn't grant passage to just anyone. Only those who recite a portion of the Night's Watch oath are allowed through. As they do, the face's mouth widens dramatically, becoming a vast, gaping maw. The Black Gate predates the wall, likely built with the same ancient magic the children used to construct the wall. Let's wrap up this lore dive by talking about the Starks. The Starks of Winterfell are among Westeros's oldest noble houses, and their link to the Long Night is profound. Their whole world, their family motto, customs, and even their family tree, all come from that ancient disaster. Think about their saying, "Winter is coming." While other families down south have mottos that sound tough and proud, almost like a brand, the Stark's motto is a direct warning about an old danger returning. And another long, dark period. The first Stark was Bran the Builder, living way back in the Age of Heroes. He built both Winterfell and the Wall. After the Long Night finally ended, Bran is one of those half-legendary figures. It's hard to know what's real and what's just myth. But here's the key point. The Starks say their ancestors go back to the guy who created the best defense against the others. And the Starks have been linked to this defense ever since. Winterfell was built to survive brutal, never-ending winters. Geothermal springs beneath the castle keep its walls quite warm, even in the deepest freezes. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. The crypts beneath Winterfell are enormous. They go down deep, packed with stone. Figures of deceased Stark lords, their hands resting on iron swords. And those iron swords aren't just for show. They're thought to keep restless spirits calm. But why would the Starks even need to worry about that? What are they really trying to keep locked away down there? Some believe Winterfell's crypts contain something important, maybe a hidden truth about the long night. Or something connected to the others. It's easy to see why folks think so. The crypts are mentioned over and over in the books, and characters say they feel cold and have a weird energy. The Starks are among the last houses with pure First Men blood. Most families in the South have a mix of First Men and Undol blood from later arrivals. I've made other videos explaining the Undol invasion of Westeros, but the reason this matters is the First Men's strong link to the children of the forest and their magic. Many Stark children seem to have powers tied to this magic. Warging, the ability to connect with animal minds, is super rare. But it shows up a lot in the Stark family. Bran Stark is the prime example, but Jon Snow, Arya, and Rickon Stark also show signs. Then there's Greensight, where you can see through weirwood trees and even catch glimpses of the past and future. Bran Stark doesn't just become a normal green seer. He becomes the three-eyed crow, gaining knowledge and power stretching back millennia. If you're curious about warging and Greensight, check out my video on magic in Westeros. So yeah, there's definitely something in the Stark bloodline. Something connected to the old gods and the kind of magic that shaped the world during the long night. But that's where we'll wrap up our lore exploration for today. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, winter is coming. Thank you. 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 Thank you.